of our experts who want to please their ministers and those when government calls them and they go panicking and they cannot tell the country, let's review how much telecom is taken out of this country. Let's check, can we either by persuasion or by law require some of these multinationals to plow back in the country? You know, when I left university, it was not allowed for a foreign company to come and register here foreign directors without local directors. What was the intention? That some Ugandan ownership is there. We are going to a very sensitive oil industry. If we allowed what happened in the prospecting stage of largely foreign companies to be in charge of the process, we are talking about flight. So what we need now is to say how much local content of local expertise, even if it means building capacity, local contractors and local supplies go into this industry, because we have a profit model, profit sharing model. Whatever is declared as the cost of production, if it's foreign companies, that means that you are creating jobs.
We have to move forward.
So these are areas we need to look at. And I want also to caution, because when I raised this debate, even in Makera, I've been getting calls and who are calling me from FM station. We are discussing the social market economy.
Social market economy.
The German model.
Right.
What we need to understand is that Uganda still needs direct foreign investment.
Yes.
Capital does not have to be Ugandan. Capital can be from China. America is using Chinese money.
True.
But what is important? What are the regulations? What's the licensing process? If roofings, for example, make sheets on Entebbe Road, and is a wholesaler in Chukubu, and is a retailer in Uganda, and is a distributor and a transporter, that is dangerous. Now, it's not the investor who is a problem.
But
it's those in charge of regulation who have failed.
We have to move forward. Let's see.
And these are the areas we need to review that we deal with the challenge of unemployment of this young population this country is having. Let me end with this point of the force account. We have said government cannot own a road equipment. And we say, please, outsource. Now, in procurement, we have what we call a make or buy decision. It's weighed. It's weighed. You weigh, when do I make and when do I outsource?
Okay, let's hear from the listeners.
It's time even to see, we have worked on these roads last year using force account.
Okay.
Not because even the capacity of our private sector in this construction also has its.
Let's hear from the listeners. Our numbers tonight: 0414 348 111, 0312 260 390, 0791 909 909. Spectrum, hello. Hello. Hello.
I'm called Stephen and I'm calling from Wandegea. I would like to thank you for the two gentlemen that you brought to articulate serious issues like that. But for me, a little bit, I will first defy a little bit. Could the PRO of PU try to give us a little bit of accountability on how much we have made through privatization and what government is using that money for?
Spectrum, hello. Hello.
Good evening, Spectrum.
Good evening. Your name?
Dr. Kim Tokamal is my name.
Dr.
I salute you this evening.
Yes.
I salute you, Birahwa, in the studio, my good friend. First of all, I must thank you for a wonderful articulation. But I wish to advise you guys. Sincerely, we need a serious economical reform. Under whatever circumstance, we need a very serious economical reform. The way things are going on economically, we are almost going to a mess. We need a policy. Let me cite one in conclusion. For instance, we need a policy whereby every investor that comes to this one, you must tell us that whatever investment you bring to this country, how many cadres are going to be beneficiaries? How many cadres are we giving you to employ them?
Spectrum, hello. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Your name?
My name is Wamboga Mugiria.
Yes, Peter.
Now, Edmond, allow me to greet my good friend Jim Mugunga and Honorable Birahwa. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Now, I want to agree that both of them are right on what they are saying. But the bottom line is that we need a review of the economic policy of the country. One fundamental thing about policy is that policy is flexible. It's not built in stone. What was done in early 90s, mid-90s is not applicable today.
Absolutely.
So we need a reform of the liberalization and privatization policies. That's one. Two, look at the copper sector. Edmond, currently copper prices on the world market are one of the best. But what has been done in the copper sector is that nothing is going on at Klembe. There is no quick decision making on policy.
We tried copper.
The best cotton prices in the world are today. The best coffee prices in the world are today. But how much is the state intervening and taking advantage of these global opportunities?
Spectrum, hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, your name?
My name is David.
David?
From Bukoto. Yeah, privatization has done more harm than good, simply because it was not done in good faith and not done in the interest of the people of this country. But instead it was used as a scapegoat for some people in the high hierarchy of this government to take control over the resources of this country, which is very, very unfortunate and very dangerous.
Our final caller, Spectrum.
Hello?
Yes?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Your name?
My name is Paul Mugunga, calling from Luzira.
You can switch off your radio if you please do.
Okay, is it okay now?
Yes, go on.
Now, Mr. Bwana Edmond, much as the privatization was mishandled, I don't think it is the one that has greatly contributed to the current inflation, because we have been having a stable currency over a long period of time. It was caused by government excesses. However, turning back on privatization, the mistakes were made, because when you see in Russia, privatization, the citizens who had the highest priority, the people like the Abramoviches, and so on and so forth. When you go to Mexico, this richest man, Carlos Slim, yes, he went through by getting advantage of privatization. So here mistakes were made. Citizens were not given a high priority like in other countries. So there is a problem of foreign exchange repatriation.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Let's get back to you, Paul. Jim, sorry.
Thank you, Edmund. And I think, what can I say? The couple of issues raised by the callers, accountability. Yes, we do account to the Auditor General and our books.
Do you know how much money we got from the sales where we sent it to?
The law is very clear, and I think Honorable is conversant with it. The law says, one, that you call out divestitures, you keep money on the divestiture account, you use the funds to enable you divest other companies. Now that is part of the other route I was talking about, that when we try to compare these companies, they are not comparable. The ESCOM is not comparable to Ugandan companies at all. But having said that, I'll just run quickly to one thing which I didn't mention the other time was the benefits. If you look at the benefits of privatization, the share sales the Honorable is talking about, actually the entire backbone of the Capital Markets Authority, 99% of the products you have on the securities exchange is a result of privatization. Short of privatization, there is no way this would have happened. So when we say that we should have...
Just add the late privatization was more disciplined, and I want to agree with you.
Okay, thank you very much. And when you say that you should have divested companies by selling shares, there was no market. Actually, the entire market in Uganda was started because of privatization. I agree there are frustrations and there were mistakes, but the truth of the matter is the reason we are not debating telecom, transport, water, capital markets, and so on and so forth is purely because we performed. Yes, there are those weaknesses elsewhere, and I would agree they were collected. For example, UCB, common story, told every day. That was purely because of a mistake. Was it collected? Yes. We have Stanbic, which is vibrant, which is everywhere. You have the case of the airline. Was that a mistake of privatization? No, that was a political mistake. No, it was a mistake, but made by politicians, and I don't want to go into that detail. The other mistake which I would want to point out, which was you wouldn't really say you can blame it on this or that, is purely the activities that were delayed because of interference. You undertake a divestiture in a good time, but you have a system that has been crippled that you cannot actually implement because somebody says no. point of order on the floor. Stop that process. Now, the moment that kind of thing happens, you actually cannot operate, and the private sector loses hope, and they move on. But I also want to agree with the Honourable that the oversight role must be there. I also agree with the caller who said, let's review. We're actually reviewing. I've just given you an example of the public-private partnership policy. This is a new policy going forward, picking up from where we left. Where were we at privatization? We did what we did, which we've just discussed in the last 1 hour. Now, the government is saying, look, we are not static. The new challenges, as they come, they evolve new solutions. We need to address them. Now, the kind of solution the government is thinking about is public-private partnership. It's not saying reverse. It's saying, can the government work with the private sector? Can we move in a tandem and achieve a solution? For example, there are partnerships in energy, as we speak. There are partnerships in oil. But we're also thinking about partnerships in infrastructure delivery. Things like roads, things like airports, things like all the infrastructure projects we can't do because our budget is not sufficient. These are PPPs that are going to be done. Can I answer the issue of copper?
Very quickly.
He is right. Nothing much was done. Why? Because our regulatory framework requires, one, that you undertake an international competitive tender process for a company like copper, like Kirembe. Can you just go in there because 20 years ago, Kirembe stopped working because the copper prices went to zero. We closed the company and put it under maintenance. All of a sudden, prices went through the roof because of demand in China. Now, in Uganda, our laws have not coped up with that change. They require that we go to Parliament for approvals. They require that you can undertake an international tender competitive process. They also require that the books that you closed 20 years ago, you rewrite them so that the investors come. That's not something you can do overnight. So that's exactly why you see that when my good friend Mugira refers to the indecision on the part of it's actually not indecision. It's because the preparatory work that goes into rectifying the mistakes of 20 years ago is enormous. And we have to do it and do it right, because tomorrow, if we don't do it, Honorable here will be on the other side and saying, explain.
Honorable Birahwa.
Let me say that the liberalization, privatization, divestiture was a vehicle which has brought us this far when the country has challenges of recovery, stabilization, and rehabilitation. But we are now talking of Uganda with a national development plan, with National Planning Authority, with Vision 2035, and with intentions of becoming a middle-income country. And therefore, it cannot be the same vehicle. And therefore, I welcome final government for having come up with PPP, because if you realize, the Singapore, the Malaysia, the Asian tigers defied the World Bank and did not go for outright liberalization. Instead, government supported sectors they felt were critical, and that's what has delivered them to where they are. And therefore, I strongly advocate for the UDC,
the Uganda Development
as a government model of financing wherever the private sector cannot cope. Our private sector is weak, and before it becomes strong, government must intervene the way it is intervening now in energy. It must intervene in railway. But I think even construction companies, we need government to come in. The other weakness we had, for example, if you look at the Umeme agreement, the targets were very slim, very decimal.
Very weak,
So you also find competencies in the areas of what was the agreement. So I must say that government, whenever private sector fails, government comes in, and therefore it's a responsibility for government to come in. By the way, one thing I want to thank Jim. We are not ideologically disagreeing
with the principle, because
this debate here comes from an ideological background. The laissez-faire complete private sector-led growth is at one extreme. The other area would be to be on the extreme of saying government does everything. I am not on neither of the continuum. I am on the mixed economy, which NRM government did prophesy in the early years, and this is the mix we need.
We need to go
where the private sector cannot. Government must come in, and this country, let's own up, and let's not go for the denial stage. We need to agree where the challenges are, and we move on.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Edmund. In 2 minutes, the issue of UDC, we've moved on. UDC is in place. An investment vehicle is being created for government to invest in.
Let's get the emphasis that Uganda Development Corporation is coming back.
Exactly. Bujagali is actually already set up. It's operational. Bujagali, the issue of Bujagali was not because the private sector delayed to come. Inherent problems from, one, you have people complaining about goats who are being moved. Two, you have butterflies and so on. Then three, you have people complaining about Bujagali being put where it was put. But most important, you have a hesitant international development partner who is not willing to come until government said we're moving, whatever the case may be. You know the story of the energy fund, which came into place. So the issues are completely different. But I do appreciate where Honorable is coming from.
Of course, finally, we need to move National Planning Authority from finance, so that we give it more latitude to think beyond budget management, so that there are radical reforms which this country needs in the education system, vocationalization, the land sector, all this will require an NPA which has more latitude and more leverage beyond currently the way they are pruned by finance. I believe without looking at who is managing finance and NPA,
we have
planning. We are in the era of planning. We need more planning and we need more space for planning beyond just managing finances available in the world.
Absolutely right. National Planning Authority has been detached. It's independent. It's headed by somebody who is at the level of a cabinet minister. I think government is really very proactive.
We have to go. Thank you very much indeed, our guest. Very broad topic. Honorable Stephen Birahwa, Chairman of the Parliamentary Committee of the National Economy. Thank you for coming over tonight. Mr. Jim Mugunga, very knowledgeable spokesperson of the privatization unit. He couldn't say everything he wanted to say tonight because of the time. Thank you. I believe you'll be able to come back another time and maybe talk to us about the public-private partnership, the future, as the government has charted it out. Thank you very much for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Chizito. Spectrum returns tomorrow, but now you can hear the news in English. Do stay tuned to Radio 1.
Let's talk about the home of your dreams and how you plan to finance it. Let's discuss